But I don't.
You mentioned injuries there, and of course, Echejile came to mind. But let's talk about the lists now and the controversy that surrounded all of it. You know, people wanted certain people in the lists. Ike Uche was supposed to have been there, and people wanted him in, but the coach didn't even mention him at all. Taita wasn't name has come up since Echejile got injured. Uzuenyi was dropped. Now he's come back in because Echejile was dropped and all of that. I know we still have time to make some changes before a day before the game. That's until the 11th. Until the 11th. Do you think the possibilities of names still coming up if we have any injuries? I know Musa is not in an injury. There's someone else.
Echejile is injured. Oshaniwa didn't play the game against Greece because he was sick.
What do you think of the list, first of all?
Well, what do I think of the list? I think that if I were the manager, I probably would have gone with a few different players. But apparently Keshi is the manager, and so he's made his decisions. But you say to yourself that there's Shola Ameobi in the list. Shola Ameobi got a grand total of 2 league goals for Newcastle. I mean, he hardly ever scores. And when he was really a spring chicken, in the sense of the word, we wanted him to come and play for Nigeria, but he didn't play. Now he's all of 30 years old. He knows that he has absolutely no hope of playing for England. And all of a sudden, Keshi has taken a shine to him. I don't see what he offers that somebody like Imo Ezekiel, for instance, in Belgium, does not offer. Or maybe even a player in the local league. You also look at certain positions like João Oshaniwa. I say to a lot of people that, for me, he seems like a phantom player. He's there all the time, but you never actually see him play. Not for his club, not for the national team. He played yesterday, and he really didn't excite. A few other surprising selection. Michael Lichebo, for instance, going to the World Cup off the back of his league form. A lot of question marks. And Ike Uche not making the list. I mean, it's been made clear, however, that the reason why Ike is not going is not for footballing reasons. Because for footballing reasons, they're no-brainer. He's got the most goals by any Nigerian in Europe this season. But
he's really our best player.
Absolutely. But obviously, he's got issues with the coach, and those were issues that they haven't been able to resolve. A lot of people will say to you that it's the job of the manager to ensure that issues don't get in the way of getting your best players into the team. The other argument as well will be that the player also has to be on his best behavior so that he can get into this. We can make, arguments for and against. But you look at the list and you say to yourself that maybe certain people should have been there, but he's the manager.
But is it a disaster though, the list?
Not necessarily, because the key players are in there. There's Mikel, there's Victor Moses, Emenike. The spine of the team is the same. You've got Omero, you've got the goalkeeper, you've got Obabona. The spine of the team is the same. And once you've got the same spine, Onazi, Mikel, and you've got Emenike, you've got Victor Moses and Musa. So it's not a strange list. But when you've got someone like Michael Babatunde, who is listed as a striker but has an average of a goal every 700 minutes, that's a big question mark. Particularly when people like Imo Ezekiel, who was really, really exciting last year in Belgium, were not even given a shout at all. They were not even invited. People will say to you that the coach cannot invite everybody. But if a coach says to you that merit will be the basis for the selection of my players, and you are seeing clear cases of maybe demerits, there'll be question marks. And, in a bit of it, Nigerians are right to say certain players, shouldn't have been there, certain players should have been there.
You look at that list, and particularly the left back, for example, we have nobody. We have no natural left back there now. Echejile, who was the only guy that is injured. We don't even have a right back. Our right back is makeshift, who is the F.A. Ambrose. He plays fullback, or he plays the centre back in his club. So does that list give you confidence when you look at it, Blessing?
To be honest, it doesn't. But we said the same thing before we went for the African Nations Cup, even though some people would say that you don't compare the African Nations Cup with the World Cup. But at the same time, I still believe that looking at the list, like this morning, I was like, wow, we were not like so excited, enthusiastic like we normally would. But at the same time, we'll see that at the end of the day, we might get what we never expected. We might go to the World Cup, we'll shine, we'll play well. When the list came out, a lot of people complained. I was even talking to my spouse. He said, Keshi is the coach. Leave him to do what he knows how to do best. But we are Nigerians. We pay tax. We have to talk about it. It's our right to talk about it.
And
but it's also the right of but it's also the right of the coach to make the decisions. At the end of the day, we don't pray for him to see something bad, but we hope to come out victorious from our group. If we can do well, play along with Argentina, we win Iran, win Bosnia. This is the first time Bosnia are coming to the World Cup.
They're not an easy team.
But they're not an easy team. No, the 32 teams, anybody that is going to the World Cup is not an easy team. But we just have to put all our best, and there should be unity. Just like Biola mentioned, people were talking about Ikechukwu Uche. He didn't go to the World Cup because of that same disunity. But I believe at the end of the day, Keshi will be able to merge his players together and put his best.
Now, Seun, something Biola mentioned in his first comment was, about lethargy in our friendlies. And, one thing that most teams know that ends up putting a spark in your team is your bench. If you're able to, 50th, 60th minute, you introduce someone who completely changes the team. I mean, we saw a bit of that with Uchebo in our second friendly against Greece. That was like, I was amazed at how well he played in that game, considering against Scotland, he was almost non-existent. Our first team seems actually okay, but the bench inspires no hope.
let me say something to you, Ebuka. In the world, there's no perfect list. Even if you take 23 Lionel Messi or 23 Cristiano Ronaldo to the World Cup, there will still be complaints here and there.
Team.
And they'll be well beaten. But the truth of the matter is this. You must take a team that 70-80% people will have hope. Biola, said most of the things I want to say, that prior to Keshi assuming this position as the chief coach, he said it will be performance-based. And if there's anything that I was taught in this profession, you hate the game, you don't hate the player. There are some things that happen in the media that, for crying out loud, we shouldn't have heard about it. Tactical indiscipline. What do you understand by that? If you were to be tactical indiscipline, people like Pepe, people like Ramos, people like Balotelli should be in the barracks doing community service. They shouldn't be playing football again, because those guys parade the height of tactical indiscipline. But on and off the pitch, they'll do anything. People like Joe Barton. But you must learn how to manage them. That's why I said we must demystify what is a coach, a manager, and a technical advisor. Keshi is a coach and a manager, and that's why we expect him to manage the egos around these players. The guys that are taken to the World Cup, like he said, Babatunde Michael, for the life of my money. Michael Uchebo. How did these guys get on the plane to the World Cup? And Juwon Shano, I told Biola before we came into the studio, I said, I was very bitter with Stephen Keshi. That you have to leave Kunle Odulami on the outside right against Scotland. Fullbacks these days are diminutive. Yeah. They like to bump forward, and their recovery rate must be superb. And the style he wants to play, which is a 4-3-3, it means that both right and left wing, you have collapsed it. Those guys are the ones doing the going forward and the tracking back. Juwab cannot track back. Going forward, he cannot do that. If you ambush, we actually said it. So the question is, there are players that could have done that job and done that job perfectly well. Haruna Lukman was playing fantastic football for Dynamo Kiev. For crying out loud, look at those guys in the midfield. Gabriel Ruben, how did he make the World Cup? How did he make it? So these things gives us questions, and we continue, more questions begging for answer. But at this juncture, there's nothing we can do. The only thing we can do is to continue to be prayerful. But hey, I used to tell people, I don't think God said, walk and pray. He has not changed that thing until he comes again to tell us that, I'm taking out to pray. If you were to be prayer, hey, Israel will have won the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm going to put you a bit on the spot now, because all of this talk about Keshi, a lot of things have been said in the media, even in informal discussions, about the fact that he's doing this because he knows he's going to leave the job right after the World Cup for South Africa. Yeah. Do you believe that?
I think so. I mean, you look at other countries and you get the sense that the managers who are going, we already have replacements. For instance, Louis van Gaal is moving to Manchester United. Everybody already knows that the advocate is going to replace him. I said to a lot of Nigerians that my worry actually is not the World Cup. My worry is nobody's talking about after the World Cup.
Happened?
In the sense that even if Keshi is going to leave, what profile of manager are we looking to hire? And if we're going to hire, are we already talking to this person as per availability? And all of those other issues. There's a sense that once Keshi goes, we can just bring anybody in. No. The job is done in the past 2 years. Shows clearly that you've got to get the next choice absolutely right. If not, all of the work is done. We'll crumble. Again. Are you looking to Amokachi to replace? I mean, let's have a sense of what you are doing. It looks like everybody's just focused in a micro sense on the World Cup, and then after that, I think that Stephen Keshi clearly wants to leave, or maybe no wants to leave. He has to leave. The NFF haven't made him a new offer. They've been strange bedfellows since they won the Nations Cup. He felt in South Africa that they were all over him. I was there, and quite honestly, their relationship wasn't smooth. In London as well, last week when they were preparing for the World Cup, I didn't see any FA official at the team hotel. That's not to say they are quarreling, but they are not particularly in love with each other. Also, all of the commercial deals he's doing as a direct benefit of his great job in South Africa. I do not think that they are very, very happy in the sense that he's making all of this in quote side money and it's not declaring, for them. So there are a lot of issues. It doesn't look like they can keep working going forward. The NFF officials also feel in a bit of way that Nigerians are arrogating too much of the credit to Keshi, and nobody's paying any attention to the work that they are doing in the background, whatever that work that work is. So it looks to me that Gordon Ingerson has already been told that his contract will not be renewed in August. Danny Jordan, a few months, I think about 2-3 months ago, he was talking about how the coach they would like to hire after Gordon Ingerson is going to be at the World Cup. That will signal, Stephen Keshi. So it looks to me like the marriage between the NFF and Stephen Keshi probably will break up. His lasted, I think, as long as it will. After the World Cup, we've had a lot of issues that have been managed. It's possible that after what happens at the World Cup, there could be a big blow-up that wouldn't be good for anybody. So I think it probably will meet South Africa.
Yeah. The allegations have been a lot. I mean, people have. There's a list of 3 or 4 players who apparently are tied to a certain agent called Tony Harris. Whose names appeared on the list. And they're all,
the Michael Uche boy is in there as well. Yeah.
There will always be controversies. That's just it. And just the question you asked, I don't really see it from that angle. I don't feel Keshi will want to do bad because he wants to leave the country. After the World Cup, he won't be the coach of the Super Eagles anymore. Everybody wants to have a good pedigree, good record. If you want to call Stephen Keshi, you say the Super Eagles winning African Nations Cup coach.
Is it possible that at this point he's thinking more of his pockets than...
In football, you think of your pocket and you also think of your success. You think of your trophies. You think of your pedigree. When you leave, what would they remember you for? So I feel it's just, it has to do with disunity. It has to do because there was a program I was listening to, and from the NFF official, the way they were discussing and talking, I knew there was no love lost between Keshi and the technical crew. I believe there should be unity amongst them. They should go to the World Cup with a focus.
Front,
You understand? There shouldn't be what this person is thinking of this, the glory and all that. At the end of the day, we're thinking of what Nigeria. And football is a game that unites everyone. Everybody wants to be a part of it. So let's go for success. Let's all the rancor, all the quarrels, all the bad blood. You're fighting for publicity. You're fighting for who goes for. You can imagine the coach of a country going for a program that was sponsored by. That was a program by the sponsors of the Super Eagles and the technical crew, technical bench or technical team committee did not agree, did not accept. There should be unity. At the end of the day, all these players are saying these things and they will look for an excuse or look for an alibi to hold on to and say, after all, you people were not united, you were quarreling.
And they can use that as a...
and all that.